Hey guys, I think we are live. Let's wait for a few minutes for our mentor to join. Hello everyone. We are just going to start our webinar within a few minutes. Let's just wait for our mentor to join. Let me see if everything is working well. Okay, looks like we are live. For those whoever is can see me, can you just type that if you can hear me okay? You can just type on your chat box. Let me just try myself. Okay, so I think mentor Iftikhar is just joining me. All right. Hi Iftikhar, I think we are live now.
Awesome. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, let's just wait for a few more minutes for others to join. I think Mark is here, Pradeep is here. Hey guys, welcome to our third technical workshop. We are going to start exactly at 9:05 Eastern time. Okay, let me just see if everything is functioning. Thanks a lot for joining on a Sunday night. All right, let's see. I think have any of you guys actually been to our other workshop? I remember the name Pradeep. I think you were here before. Mark, what about you? Have you been to our workshops before, or this is your first? Yeah, we're going to start very soon in 3 more minutes. We have Iftikhar from Amazon. Okay, hi. Okay, well, welcome to your first workshop. We do these workshops every month, once in every month. Sweet. So you're from Singapore. Great. Good to see people from all over the world. I guess let's start with while we wait. I guess let's start with who is from where. I'm from New York. Mark, you're from Singapore. Maybe we can have a role of like basically who is from where location wise. It'd be great to see if a lot of people are joining from different places. I can see a lot of people in the chat, but like just if you can type, it would be great to basically like uh, see if you can hear me okay. Anyone else? You can see a few other people on the chat. I wonder what's the time there, Mark, right now in Singapore? Hi, Saad. Saad is from Sydney. Great. It's 9 p.m. in New York. Upama is from Houston. There are some known faces. Okay, yeah, I think Pradeep, you joined our first workshop on January. Okay, great. That's good to know. So okay, sweet. So today, I mean, I don't want to go too much detail because Iftikhar is going to cover what he's going to teach. I'm just going to kind of like, uh, sweet. Okay, yeah, Pradeep, you're from Stony Brook. Great. Okay, sweet. I think it's 9:05. We can probably start. I do not want to delay. So this is our third technical workshop. We do like online workshops every month. We are trying to be consistent on that. just like regularly doing technical workshop covering one technical topic. As you know that we are basically a programming and job hunting bootcamp. We have full stack classes, front end, back end, DevOps, and we basically help students to land their first jobs, especially in US, Canada, and Australia. So I know that a lot of you guys are actually from beyond these countries. We are thinking of going beyond the countries I have mentioned, but hopefully one day we'll go. Uh, Other than that, like that's our boot camp, and we do this free technical workshop just to keep people interested in just like in general technology. In this workshop, it's very difficult to go on advanced level. So we usually try to just do the workshops for beginner, just to make them excited about technology and just how it feels to do work hands-on. So our workshop today will be taken by mentor Iftekhar. Iftekhar is actually a mentor in Get Me Hired, which is our bootcamp. But he is, thanks a lot, Iftekhar, for giving your time for doing these workshops for us on a monthly basis. So last month we had Sakib, who was from Equifax. We talked about AWS. Today we'll be talking, basically Iftekhar will show us how to build a single page to-do list application using Angular 8. Iftekhar has been in Amazon for almost more than 6.5 years now, almost 7 years right now in Amazon. He has done PhD in HCI. He has a great profile. I don't want to, I guess like Iftekhar can probably start with that. But without further delay, I just will invite Iftekhar. Hey, Iftekhar, welcome. And I'll just give the mic to you.
Awesome. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Iftekhar. I am originally from Bangladesh, and then I came to Canada for my graduate studies and studied at the University of Western Ontario in the western part of Ontario. It's a small city called London, and studied my master's and PhD over there. And then I started working at Amazon as a software development engineer. And currently I am there a senior software engineer at Amazon at customer engagement technology department. So that's basically at a high level some of the things from my background. And last year, I started working with Siam and his group when they founded the Get Me Hired group to actually help students after finishing their study to uh, get some hands-on experience and to onboard with their first job. And uh, I'm actually very happy that through this platform, I met with so many students, so many amazing talents, and actually get to brush up some of my front-end knowledge. Because when you teach someone, it's actually like really helpful for you as well. So it's been awesome. And then, as Sia mentioned, we have done some of this workshop on a regular basis, and people find this very useful to get like a high level understanding of some of the technology, because they hear about like some of this web related terminology, and then maybe they're from a different background and they don't know, or maybe they have done some programming but not this specific technology that we're talking about, and then they get to know about those through this. And also it's very practical, like we're within this like 1.5 hour to 2 hour time frame. We try to like create, even if small, we try to create a application like end to end kind of um, to show them the power of some of this technology. So today I'll be assuming that all the audiences are like very new to web programming, and then go from very basic, and then try to give them a little bit of taste of front-end development using Angular. Um, Siam, are you good to start with the actual content?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, awesome. So I will share my screen for this. Can you see my screen, Sam?
Yeah, I can see it very clearly.
Okay. So I'll go through some HTML concepts, but in the meantime, I'll need to do some installation. So I'll start with that first because downloading those might take some time. I will share the link if anyone wants to uh, do with this installation as we are going. But feel free to just listen to the lecture and then the video will be available and then you can come back later, and if you want to practice from there, that will also be fine. Siam, what will be the best way to share if I want to share a link? Commenting on the YouTube channel, will that be the best way?
Yeah, you can comment on the YouTube channel, but I would recommend everyone to join our Slack channel as well. So I'll give the Slack channel as a backup. But yeah, you can post it in YouTube for now. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll need some of this thing. So I'll be using Visual Studio um, for the as an editor. So I will install that. I'm using in Windows, but you can download your preferred based on your machine. You can download that, or if you want to use other editor, that is also fine. And then I'm installing npm. And npm, I'll be only using it for installing the Angular command line tools, nothing more than that. So while I install those, I will start with the content, and then in the middle, I'll probably just click on those to just get the installation going on. So let's talk a little bit about HTML. So HTML is hypertext markup language. This is basically on the internet. When you go to a website, most websites are actually like it's HTML. How that HTML is created, some of them are written like handwritten. Some of those are generated by some external tool like framework and etc. But at the very basic, it's basically HTML pages. Like I can open a simple example. For example, if I go to Wikipedia and then
Hey, Shekhar, did you paste that link in the YouTube already? Because I don't see it in YouTube.
it should be there.
Hmm.
If not,
For
I
some
can.
reasons, it's not coming here. If you can just give it to my Slack, that will do too.
Okay, the other thing
In
I
my
can.
Slack, or if you can just message me, whatever works. Yeah.
Yeah, I can actually. So there should be a chat here.
Yeah. For some reasons, I'm not seeing it in the chat.
Like on the
Okay.
Zoom chat.
Got it. Got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sweet. Thank you.
Problem. So we went to this Wikipedia page, right? And then if I right click on it and if I do the view source, this is basically the HTML page that's generating the view that we are looking at, right? So that's in a like at a high level what HTML is. Now, what about the structure of the HTML? So HTML page will have um, the content as well as how that content should look like. It will have the layout information of that content. So how we do it is basically uh, tags are used to separate the styling related part from the actual content. And the way the tag looks like are these. It starts with this angle bracket and then the name of the tag and then end of the angle bracket. That's how the tag starts. And then between two tag is the content of the tag, and that's the element. So for example, h1 and then slash h1, between that chapter 1, this whole thing is one of the tag. I will show you some more of this example now, and also when we're actually creating the application using Angular. And then optionally, tag can also have attributes, and attributes is basically key value pair. So it will have a key and then the value for that attribute. So let's try with, and I have linked here a list of all the common attributes that you can have on an HTML element. But now let's try a simple HTML page. And what I can use for this is this tool called JS Fiddle, where you can write some HTML or JavaScript and then you can immediately see the result. So if I write that content here, and then if I click on run, then here it's showing me the content. And as you can see, it's basically HTML tag is started, head tag is started, and then we're giving here title, my web page. This title shows up here. So in this case, it's the page is here, but if you export this code and run this on a web browser, that title will show up here. And then as you can see, these tags are nested. So what it means is that one tag starts and another tag starts. The one that started later will finish first, and then the one on top of it, the one will close later. For example, head started and then title started. So title will finish first and then head will finish after that. So that is properly nested. So as you can see here, here is one h1 tag, which means header. So it's appearing as a big header, right? So let's try to create another header, h2. And then if I run it, you'll see this is like a little bit smaller header. And then in that way, I can create up to h6 for the smallest one, like that. So I'll not go into like more details for all of this. This is just a high level idea how the tags look like. And then we can have div, OL for order list, UL for unordered list. Let me give you an example for an ordered list and unordered list. So if we start with OL, then it will end with OL, and inside that we are creating list items. So apple, banana, and then you will see that it's basically coming as a 1, 2 because it's ordered list, right? But if we did not want an ordered list, we could do UL, and then it will look like this, bullets, right? Unordered list. So these are example of some of the common HTML element, and then some HTML are like inline. So by inline, it will not create a separate line for it. Let me give an example. So I am writing some content here, right? So it's just a just single line, and then you'll see that it's appearing. I'm writing some content here. But now if I want to change just some part of it, for example, span, and then I could put here some style. So this is where I'm showing some example of attribute and values. So you will see that this thing is becoming blue, but because it is an inline, it did not create a separate line for this. But instead of a span, if this was a div, then the some content came in a different line. So that's the difference between inline and those that are not inline HTML element. Now, what I did here is that I also put a little bit of actual styling like color and those kind of uh, attribute here, right? And that is how we do a styling. But in your HTML content, if you start writing style related information in the page, it can be like become like not manageable because your color and those kind of things are all over the place. So a better way of managing that is CSS. So CSS is kind of separating your styling from the actual HTML. So see here, um, this is example of a CSS, and how the CSS is working is first we are giving a selector, like where should the style be applied, and then we're telling that how the style should look like. So here it's saying that when you get an H1, make the color blue and make the font size 12 px. So if we add that here, what will happen is that see our H1 that got changed according to that. We could make here a different size, different color. And another benefit of this is that it's reusable. So instead of one H1, if I have another H1, it is getting applied to both of them, right? So that is an example of CSS. So CSS, as we can do in a couple of ways. One is inline CSS, the first example that I showed, and then internal embedded. So where it is still in the same file, but it's separated from the HTML. We're declaring it in the header section. And the third one is all my styling related information is in a different file, style.css, and then I am referencing that file from my HTML page in this way. That oh, all my style is in this style.css file. That's like the third way. We will see an example of these during our application that we will be making, because we'll use Bootstrap, which is one of these third-party styling library where they created these styles that you can use in our code. Okay, now we can go to actually start with our application. So I'm going to install npm, the file I downloaded. So okay, just the npm install finished. I'm also installed the Visual Studio Code. That I will be using as an editor. So now that we have all the, we have Visual Studio Code and NPM, now we can install the Angular command line interface. So what is Angular command line interface? So today we'll be creating a single page application using Angular, which is a popular framework for creating front-end application. And what it's provide is basically a great mechanism to manage your front-end code, because they basically Angular gives a framework and a particular way of implementing your software front-end application. So if you are using it in that way, then you are basically abstracting your front-end functionality into these smaller pieces. So it's actually very easy to maintain. You are not writing like large monolithic application. When we go to the example, you will see what I mean by that. But for now, just this is an like a application framework that allows us to create front-end application. Now, they created this tool called Angular command line interface, which allows you to like run some commands in command line, and it will automatically create some of the things for you. I'll show you, but let's install npm. So I'm opening command line from here. So I'm cmd. I'm opening command prompt, and then I am pasting this npm install angular CLI, and it will install the Angular command line interface for me. So it finished creating the Angular command line interface. Now I will go to the folder where I want to create my Angular application. So this can be any folder in your computer. In my case, I'm choosing this folder, get me add folder, and I'm going to create my application here. So I went to this folder, and then I went to the address bar, and I write command cmd here, and it will open the command prompt in that location. Now I'm going to create an Angular application using the Angular command line interface. The way we need to do it is this ng new, then the name of the application. So in our case, we are creating a to-do app. So ng new to-do app. So it is going to generate that application for me, and it's asking me whether I want to add Angular routing. So Angular routing is within your application. If you have multiple pages, then the way you go from one page to another, there is a component for that, and it's asking whether you want to add that component or not. In our case, we want to add that. So I'm going with yes. And then it's giving me option for what kind of styling I want to use. We're going with the default one, CSS. So I press enter again. Now it's creating that application for me. It's basically bringing all the files that I need, and it will generate that application for me. So it will bring all the necessary modules and etc. and put those files in right places, and it will create an empty application. We will be able to start writing the functionality there. Let me show you what I mean by it's creating the application. So you see there's this to-do app folder that was not there. So it created that folder and all these files that needed. We created those files and folder, and our source code that we will write will go inside this one. Okay, so it's just finished creating the application. Now we can start that empty application by doing this. We need to go inside that folder. So cd to do app. We went inside that folder and we need to type ng serve. That will actually run the application for us. Okay, so it is running the application for us to this URL. Localhost colon 4200 is the port number. So now if we open our browser and if we go to localhost slash 4200, it will open that application for us. They just have some of Angular's hyperlinks and etc. But it's basically a very empty application, right? It doesn't have any functionality yet. Now for editing the code here, we're gonna open the Visual Studio Code, the editor that we installed. And I'm going to open a folder, and my folder will be this Todo app folder. So the first thing we'll do is here, if we go inside source, you will go inside app, and you will see that there is an app component.html. That's the page that's currently getting rendered here, this page, right? So if you go here and then you see that they are calling it, this content below is a placeholder content. And so it's basically like, since it's an empty application, they put some content there. But the only thing in this file that is important is this very line, the last one, router outlet slash router outlet. So this is where, when within our application, if we change page, different components get loaded, and it happens here. So we'll need this part, but everything else, as it called here, this content above is only a placeholder and can be replaced. So we can basically delete all of this thing, anything other than the router outlet. So I'm deleting those. And once we did that, now you see this is an empty page. That's our empty application, right? Now we want to start adding some pages here. So the way we do that, we'll again using Angular Commandline interface to add some components. So I'm pressing Ctrl+C to stop the application running. So the application is stopped. If you go back here and if we refresh, you'll see that the site cannot be reached because the application is not running. So I'm gonna now create two components, ng generate component. So the component we're doing is, so it's a simple to-do application. You can basically, so when we say to-do application, it's basically like a grocery list or a list of movies that you're planning to watch, something like that. So there will be like two components, one for creating that list and another is to see what you have on the list and to mark some of those items done or not. So let's call one of the component create. Or yeah, I think create, or maybe create to do. That's our one of the component. So I'm creating that component, generating that component. And then another one, we'll call this execute to do. So that's basically our view where we can look at the list, and if we want to take some action, we can take some action on that. So another component. And the third thing is we'll generate a service. I will go into more details of what is the difference between these component and service. But for now, just I'm creating a service. I'll call that again. I'll just call that to do service. So it created those three things, and I can start my application again by typing the command ng-serve. And it will run the application for me. Okay, so it's running the application again. If we go back to here, it's an empty page, and but it also has two components that we created. Let's look at those. So if you go to the code, you will see that there is this create to do component and then execute to do component. So component is like a page, like a piece of code where you're writing some of your pages functionality and view, and you can go to that page. Now we have the components, but how do we go to that component? For that part, we'll need the routing. Remember at the beginning, we said that add routing. So if we go here to this app routing module, you will see that there is a variable called routes. But this route is empty. Currently, it doesn't declare any of the, it doesn't have any definition, like what are the pages or what are the routes that we have. So we need to add something here. For that, let's see how an Angular route looks like. So Angular routes basically looks like this. It has a path and a component. Path is the URL, and then the component is which component to load. So I'm copying one from here so that I can add some route to my application. So I can go here and I can add two routes. One is for create, and another for execute. Create and execute. And what should this router point to? Let's look at the name of our component. So if you go to create to do component, you will see that there is a class here. It's called create to do components. That's the name of the component. So I'm copying that, and I'm going back to my router module, and I'm saying that when the create path is active, go to the component create to do component. And for execute, the component name is execute to do component. So I'm again going back to routing and saying that when execute path is active, go to the execute to do component. And as you can see that it's underlining that basically it's saying that it doesn't know where is this create to do component is. So if I go there, mouse is giving me a quick fix, and I'm selecting to add all missing imports, and it will automatically add those. What it did is it basically added these lines here. This create to do component where to import it from, and execute to do component where to import it from. I could do it myself by typing the URL, but this way it's a lot easier. So now that I have those routes, I can actually go back to my application, and then what I can do here is if I type here create, it will go to that component and saying that create to do working. So where is this create to do working thing? This thing is coming from. If you go inside this create to do folder and open this HTML file, you'll see that this is where it's coming from. We can maybe change this a little bit to one of the tags that we learned and see if it gets reflected. Yep, so it's getting reflected. And if I go to execute, then this execute to do is working. So the place where this is coming from is here, execute to do HTML. And we can change, make a little bit of change here too. And see that that is getting reflected. Okay, so we have created these two pages. Now, as you can imagine, users will not like type address here to go between these pages, right? So we'll need a navigation. Here comes the styling library that we were talking about, Bootstrap. We can use Bootstrap for this. Let's see how we can use Bootstrap for this. If you go here inside Bootstrap, so Bootstrap is basically, it's something initially created by Twitter, and then but it's an open source, so anyone can use this. It's basically, you know, the styling that we were doing. They created some common styles so that you can use that in your page and it will look like consistent across the board if you use those same styling in your whole application. Um, so we are basically going to use Bootstrap. The way we can do is here they provided this link for the CSS. We can just copy this and we have to use this inside our index.html file. So if we go our index.html file and in the header section, before the head finishes, we are adding that line here, and then they have provided here some JavaScript that is needed. So we copied that and we added here. So now we have Bootstrap in our application just by adding these 4 lines. And you can see that it's active by seeing that it's already changed the text a little bit with Bootstrap's font. And just to make sure that it's properly working, you can go to the inspect or view page source, and you can see that here the Bootstrap is linked. The line that we added, those are here. Now let's actually use Bootstrap. So we're going to create a navigation. So Bootstrap has something called Bootstrap nav. So we can use that. So here is an example of a navigation, and they actually provided all the code for this navigation. So let's copy this navigation and we're going to use this inside our so this navigation is going to be present in all our pages, right? So we can actually add this our app.component.html because this is the page that's basically kind of like the top level page, shows up everywhere. So if we add the navigation here, save it and go to the page, you'll see that the navigation appeared here, right? And this navigation is also mobile friendly. So if you like make your page bigger, it will appear here. If you make your page smaller, it will look like a hamburger navigation, more like those mobile application navigation, and you can click here, it will appear here. So it has this bunch of links. We don't need all of those. We just need 2 links for our application. So what you can do is you can basically simplify this navigation. So instead of calling this nav bar, we can call it to do app, and then it has many links here. We don't need that many. We can just keep 1 and we can delete the rest of it. And we can also delete this form. We don't need that. And let's see how it looks. So just one link here. So instead of one, we'll actually need two. So we'll copy this and we can call one of that view versus another one is create. Okay. And you can see here that we have one link for view, one link for create. So the view one, we can link that one to the execute path. And then the create one, the one we can link to the create path. And what will happen is now we can basically just create, click and create view. And you see that the navigation is actually working. When I click on view, it says execute to do works. When I click on create, it says create to do works. So it's navigating between those two pages. But I don't know whether you noticed one thing is every time when I'm creating on these, the page is actually getting refreshed. And the way you can tell this is keep an eye on this icon here, and you will see that the page is getting refreshed. And ideally, we don't want that because this page refreshing thing, that's like a web concept. But nowadays, people want to create more interactive or what they call is a single page application so that your application looks more like a native application. You know, when you are using an application in your mobile device and you click between those links, it doesn't refresh a page. It quickly navigates between those two, right? So with Angular, you can actually do that. But what you will need to do for that is here, the way we used hyperlink, we have to give Angular the control to create this hyperlink. And the name of that concept is router link. So it is very similar to hyperlink, but they will do it slightly differently. I'll show you. So looking at router link example. So it basically looks like this, router link. So instead of href, we need to say router link, and then we need to just give the path here, execute. And then instead of hyperlink here, router link create. And now you will see that the old functionality is still there, but now it's more instant and it's not actually refreshing the page. It's happening almost instantaneously. Okay. Now let's add some functionality there. So far we have just created these components here, right? But we did not add any functionality there. So we'll add some functionality to those components. And then you can see that within each component, there are like 4 files that it created. One is for CSS and one is for the specification. These two will usually not need to touch much unless you are doing custom specific CSS for each of those. In most cases, we'll be working with this .html file and .ts file. So this .ts file is the TS stands for TypeScript, which is the language that Angular uses. So it is the definition of the component, what are all the things that's happening. And then this is the view for that component. So any UI related stuff we'll write here. And then how that UI works, those functionality we'll write here. And then 2 components, if we want them to use some similar concept, we want them to like talk to an application, those thing will go to the service. So for example, this create to do, it will create some to do items, and then view will allow us to look at those items. So these items should be in a common place, right? Where you save them somewhere and you can actually add more stuff there, modify that, etc. So those common functionality will be in the service. So that's why we also created this to do service. So both of the component will use this service, and then within the service, it will be related to that those to do items. Now let's start writing some of those functionality. Let's start with the create to do component. So we are going to create a simple form here to create. So let's look at a Bootstrap form example. So here is a very simple Bootstrap form, and I'll just copy one element from here. And let's call this input task. Type of the input is text field, and we're calling this input task. Here are some tooltip and those kind of things. We don't need those, we're deleting those. And then we don't need this help that will appear either. So I'm removing that. So we should have just a simple field here. So task, here is the field for creating the task. And now we'll need a button. So I'm taking this submit button from here. And I call this button save. So you can write a task name and you can click on save. Now, here comes an interesting concept of Angular. It's called two-way data binding, which is when you create a variable here, and if you refer that, by here I mean inside the component type, and if you refer that name from the HTML, it will actually it will make a connection between those two. And if the value changes in one place, it will reflect the value change in another place. Let me show you what I mean by that. So I am declaring a value here called variable here called task, and it's basically an empty variable, right? And then if I go here and then if I declare this input, this one to be ng model equals to task, then it should create a two-way binding between the variable. So if I have a value here, actually it is probably giving me an error. Cannot bind to ng model since it's not a known property of input. Oh, I think we missed one thing, which is okay. If you go inside app component, app module, you will see that it brought all the necessary, some of the necessary stuff, for example, the browser module, then ng module, those things. But now that we're working with form, we'll not also need to import something called a form module. So Angular import form module. Form is when you deal with this input buttons, etc. So I'm going to import this. Sometimes it's easy to find that by the error message. If you search by that, you will often find the exact solution that you're looking for. So here they say that the form module is missing, and they also gave the exact syntax that you need to import the form module. So I'm going to import the form module and then import here form module. And once I add those declarations, you can see here my task. So whatever the I declared inside the here, it appeared there. So that is the two-way data binding. So I'm making it empty for now, and then it will be empty here. Now, once someone write a task name and then click on save, I want something to happen, right? So what is that something? I need to write that functionality. So I am adding a function here. It's called add a task, and it will give me, it will get called, and once it gets called, I am going to alert what is the task value. Task value. So alert, this is a JavaScript function. That's basically whatever you say inside, that gets alerted. Now, when do we want this to get called? When someone clicks on this button, right? So when someone clicks on this button, we want to call that function, add a task. Let's see if that is working. So now, if we type something here and click save, so it says task value found. Click again, task value found. But we also need this value, right? So we are going to see what that value is. This dot task. So this is a reference to this class, and I am saying that because of two-way data binding, whatever the user typed on the field, that value is here. I want to see this value. So I am alerting that value. So now if someone types here A and clicks on save, task value found A. So our value is going from the HTML field to that component. Now we want to go it one layer further, which is we want to pass this value to the service. So we'll add a reference to the service here. So private, what is the name of our service? It's called Todo service. So private Todo service equals to Todo service. The first one is the variable name. Second was is what is the class it's referencing to. And same as before, we can go for a quick fix and we can import it. So now it imported the to-do service. Now inside the to-do service, we should add that method. So it is basically create task, and it will take a task as an input and it will save it somewhere. Okay, and let's see if the value is coming here. So alert value inside service task. So now instead of alerting here, when this method get called, we'll call this dot to do service dot create task, and we'll pass this dot task, and let's see if it is going inside the service. To do service create task is not a function. Let's refresh this one more time. Value inside service A. So the value went all the way to the service. Now we need to save the value somewhere here inside the service. So for that one, let's create a structure like a class that we'll use for storing these values. So I'm creating a new file here. It's called to.ts. That's basically how our class will look like. So export class to do. That's how our class will look like, and it will have three attributes basically. One is an ID, which is a number. One is actually the task, that is a string, and the third is whether the task is completed or not, and that will be a boolean. So these three things. So inside the service, we can actually keep a array for having those items. So all to do items, and this is an array. And every time this create task is called, what we will do is we'll create a variable new to do, which is of data type to do, and then the value will look like this. For this, we need to import and it will look like this. It will have these variables, and the task that is passed, and initially it will be completed will be false. So boolean false. And once we have the to do item, we can basically go to this dot all to do items dot push. We are adding in that array our new to do item. right? Which is working fine, but every time the ID is getting 0 value. So we don't want that. We want the ID to increment every time. So let's see how we can do that. So we can do basically this var new ID equals to, we can check how many items are here, and then we can add one to that. So basically this dot all to do items dot length plus one. So initially there's no item, so this will give us 0, and then the first item we'll put ID will be this new ID. Next time when someone try to create another task, this time the length of the array is 1, so we are getting 2 here. We'll add it like this, so it will go that way. So now it is getting saved here. So every time someone calls this method, a task get created. Now in the view, we want to print this task, right? So let's do that. So inside the, from create to do, let's copy this constructor because we will need this to do service inside the execute to do as well. And very important. And in this class, let's have something called current to do items. And this is by default an empty array. But when this component gets loaded, what we'll do is this dot current to do items equals to this dot, we're calling the service and we're getting all to do items from the service, but instead of directly calling the variable, what we'll do is inside the to do service we'll add a method called get all to do items, and we'll return now inside the execute to do, we can call that method get all to do items. So now here in this class we have all the to do items and we want to print them. Let's see how we can do that. So let's see in this form, you see there is a checkbox here, right? Let's print those as those checkbox. So let's copy that checkbox example. And let's go inside execute to do component.html. And here H1, H1. So I just pasted that form. Now we'll learn another Angular concept. It's called ng-for. Start ng-for. The way it works is basically if you have an array, you can loop through those array and you can print all the items of that array using this ng-for syntax. So Angular ng-for example. The way the ng-for works is, I'll get an example from here. So it goes like this. ng-for equals to let something of something. Okay. And now I'll show you what that means. So the second part is actually the variable, the array that I have. So I'll refer to that. So the array we have here is called this one, current to do items. So I can just paste that array here. So it will look through those each of those items and it will call each of them. Each of them, it will give a new name for this. It's called item. And then once the item is going through them, I can here actually print that item. So what our items are, each of them are a to-do item. So I'll need this two double bracket and then two double bracket and here I can say item. And let's call this, we don't need an ID and we don't need this label, who this label is for. But now if you go to our to-do app, if we add one task here, and then if we add another one here, and then if we go to the view, you'll see that it's showing two items, but it's showing object because each of our item is like an object. It has ID, it has the task, and it also has a Boolean value. So we don't want to print the whole object, we just want to print the task. So let's go back here and we can just print the task from here. And you will see here that if I refresh it, it will go away. I can go to create and I can create task A, task B, and if I go to view, it will showing up in a loop that I have this task A and B. If I go to create again, and if I type C, go to view, it's showing the third item here as well. So a couple of things. One is you see that here in create, when I am typing something, it's not going away. We want this to go away. So the way we can do is if I go to the create to do component and then see every time we add a task, we can basically make this dot task equals to empty again. So that will make it go away when it is saved. So now if we type A, save is gone, B gone, C gone. If I go to the view, you'll see that those items are appearing there, right? Now, if I click on one of them, it is marking that as done. But you will see that if you go back to create and come back again, it's not staying there. The reason is that because we have not added any action and we are not remembering anywhere that these tasks are done, right? So we need to do that. How can we do that? We can basically in this view, execute to do. This is a checkbox, right? So what we can do is similar to before, click of this checkbox, we can call a function call mark item done. And inside that, we can pass the item ID. So we are making this new function mark item done. Let's declare that function here. Mark item done. And when this function gets called, it is passing the ID of what was clicked. So let's see it is getting that value properly. So alert clicked ID. Let's see if when we click, we get it correctly or not. So create a save B save view. Clicked on one. Okay. Clicked on two. Clicked on one. Clicked on two. Okay, nice. So when we're clicking on something, we're getting that ID. Now we need to pass that ID to the service. And from the service, we need to save it, that it is done. So how we can do that? Let's go back to our service and add a new function called mark item done, or maybe call it mark task done, or mark task completed, because that's more close to the variable that we gave. And we are passing an ID for this. And for this, what we'll have to do is we have to, in a for loop, we have to go through each of the items. I equals to 0, I is less than this dot all to do items dot length I plus plus, just a very basic for loop to go through each of the item. Now if this dot all to do items of I dot ID equals to the ID that is passed, then what we can do is we can say this dot all to do items of I dot completed equals to true. So previously we were saying everything is by default false, but when this particular one is called, we're going through each of the item, and whenever we find that item, we're saying that this one is completed equals to true. Okay, so now from the execute component, instead of alerting, we can basically do this dot to do service dot mark task completed, and then we're passing the ID. Now whether it's actually updating it or not, how can we see that? Inside this ng init, when it comes back, if we print console.log, we can actually log the items that we got back. These dot current to do items. So we are logging those items, and you will see how it is actually show that. So we go to our create, and we add a task. We add another task. And then if you go back to view, you'll see that it's showing 2 items here. This is where the console.log is logging it. And each of those tasks is completed false. But now if I mark one of them, and then if I go back to create, and then if I come back to view, you'll see that now it's printed 2 items again. But one of them completed is true. Okay, just to give an idea about where we are actually very close to finishing the application. As you can see that we are creating item and it's coming back here. We just want to show that the item that we are marking as done, they are getting marked as done, and we're going to save that information somewhere. That's it. It should not take more than 10-15 minutes more to wrap it up. So now it's showing us true versus false, but we want to reflect that here. So that is another Angular concept. It's called ngIf that now we can do. So if we go here in our HTML, and we can basically use this. So we can create a span, and it will be based on ngIf, and if it is so if the item dot completed is true, then basically we print one thing, and otherwise we print different thing. So when it's not completed, it is okay to print what we were printing before, right? We can just show what we were showing before. But if it is completed, then we want to show it slightly differently. What do we want to do in that case? We basically don't need this functionality. We don't need to click it on anymore. Instead of that, we can just say that it's checked and it's disabled. Disabled. And now you will see how that looks like. So if we go to create, and if I go to view, showing item, trademark on that, it got disabled and I can't click it anymore. It's also showing the check. If I can go back to create and create few other tasks. If I come back to view, all of them are showing. I can mark anything else as done. Okay, now my items are being marked and it's staying there. But you probably have noticed one thing, that every time I refresh, my items are going away, right? I need to create it again. We don't want that. We want to save it somewhere. So in a full stack application, what will happen is that from your service, you will actually call a backend. So in our Get Me Hired Bootcamp, we actually show how to create a backend application that will save it somewhere in a database. But for the purpose of this workshop, we just want to save it somewhere. So one thing we can do is we can use local storage that will save it in a cookie or something like that in the local storage. So Angular local storage. Let's see how that works. So we just need to do it like this: local storage dot set item and local storage dot get item. So let's do that. Now, for that, if we go back to the service, inside the constructor, when the application is loading for the first time, we basically want to load it from the cache, right? So the way we can do it is this dot all to do items equals to local storage dot get item, and I can name this to-dos. So this is actually, so get item will give me a string, but here it's an array. So what I have to do here is I have to do this JSON dot parse the string, and since I am doing it for the first time, it's possible that it's empty, right? So if it is empty, in that case, I just want to declare this as an empty array. So that's when we are doing it for the first time. And then when something is marking as completed and when we are creating a task, we want to save that after it is done. So in that case, we'll do local storage dot set item, and we'll use the same name here, to-dos. And the value we can pass there is similar to JSON.parse. There is an opposite way to do it. It's called JSON.stringify. That will convert your array to a string, and then we can pass this dot all to do items there so that it gets saved there. And one last time. So similar to here, after the task is updated, we also want to do it there so that it gets saved. So now it's saved all the way. So we can go back to our application and we can go to create, and we can create a nice to-do list. You can go to view and see that that got added. We can add. Can add those items, and if you go to view, they are there. And if I mark them as done, and if I say refresh it, hopefully they should stay. And the item is my to-do item list is staying there. So that's basically our simple, very simple to-do application. And as you can see that it's mobile friendly and already looks like a application. It's a very simple one, but it has all the like basic components of Angular. And so as a next step, next time, like when we do a backend, we can basically look at how the backend service for this looks like, where instead of storing it somewhere local, because the problem with storing local is that you will only work for your computer. But if you like log in from a different computer in a different browser, or if you log in from someone else's computer, it will not work, right? But if you want it to always get saved somewhere in a server, so you will need to have a backend application for that. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. I know 1.5 hours, it's a little bit longer, but this is basically we started from installing everything and going through all the basic details and creating end-to-end the application. That's it, Siam.
Okay, sweet. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Iftikhar, for doing this for us. And definitely those who are listening, thanks a lot for having your patience, especially on a Sunday night for those who are logging in from North America. I just wanted to basically say that, yeah, we do this every month. If you want to support us, go to patreon.com. So I'll just type it so that you guys have it handy. So patreon.com/getmehired. If you can go to, so we are Get Me Hired. We just do this every month. So go to patreon.com/getmehired and support us if you can. Like whatever you can donate per month, that would be awesome for us to keep us going. Other than that, join our Slack channel. And yeah, I'll hope to see you guys again next month with another technical course. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.